Hello everybody and welcome to this stream where we're going to be looking at the first 3 rounds of Head-to-Head Classic. If the builders are around, I'd love to hear thoughts from you. Just drop a message into the main voice chat channel and I'll be able to see that because I've got that active. I'd love to hear you guys' voices. We're going to go chronologically round by round, so the first one's going to be round 1, match 1. If you miss your round, say if you show up late and whatnot, sucks to suck, I suppose. But, yeah. No, I'm not going to be using loopy landscapes. That's a good question. For technical reasons, the thing that we want to prioritize in this situation is simplicity of presentation and ease of use. So we're going to be using Open Rollercoaster Tycoon because it has that higher resolution. We can zoom in more. It's more versatile for this situation. If you are looking to get the most accurate view of the parks, it might be a better idea to download them yourself and look at them in loopy landscapes. But for our purposes, this is a community viewing experience. Yeah, that's how we're going to do it. I hope that's a fulfilling answer, but fantastic question. Thanks for asking it. Right, so let's get underway. Round 1, match 1 of Head-to-Head Classic, Anno Domini 2022. We are looking at the first one alphabetically in this round, which is Atarpit Lacuna by the Evergreen Gardeners. The builders on this park were, of course, Coca with a 80% share, Ethan with a 10% share. Ethan, if you want to talk, just drop a message in the chat. We'll get you unmuted and you can talk with us about it. And Intamin with 10%. That goes for anybody who's building on these parks, by the way. Yeah, this is the one that I ended up voting for just because I just find these builders so enthralling. But I'll say this, it isn't necessarily very idiosyncratic for the era. Also, this coaster's way too quick. I have no idea. It's like psychopathically fast. It does look very cool though. I can see that Ethan's typing something. We'll see if he wants to join us before we do the grand tour. Perhaps you're right, Liam. Let's see what we got on here. Launch speed 40 miles per hour. Should we see what happens when we reduce that? And do a bit of this. Oh, look, operating limits. I can't remember what it was to begin with. Still fairly quick. Well, this is just another great reason why you should be opening them in the manner in which they were built, if you're going to be voting on them. But it isn't a huge deal, to be honest. If you want to use open to do it, that's also great. Let's get Ethan unmuted. Hello, Ethan. Are you able to use your mic?
Hello.
How are we doing?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Alright, what's up?
So I'm going to do like a brief description of the park, and then we can get into sort of the building process. If you want to talk about that, anything you want to talk about in particular, to be honest. The things that stand out for me in this park are the fantastic use of landscape almost in the place of architecture, because the architecture is quite minimal as it goes around. It's very stylistic and very sort of bold and vivid. But if we were to remove like all of the colour from it, remove all the land textures, just have sort of like the contour of the park, it would almost feel like this sand is almost the footpath. the landscape are buildings, like islands of buildings, and that makes for a really nice natural experience, despite the unnatural context that we're looking at. There's not enough tar pits is a good point, Liam. They're sort of... There seems to only be 4. And you know what? It does say a tar pit, so we've got 3 more than was initially promised. So another thing that's fantastic about this part, really stood out to me, is just the very... It seems simple, but the nesting of the rides into the environment is super... It just works. So the way that the coaster just sits and allows the footpaths and stuff to go across it. I'm curious as to whether any futuristic hacks... What is going on here?
What did it say?
I might reload it, to be honest. I do this every time. But yeah, love it. This seems... Immediately upon opening it, you can kind of tell who the builders are, the main builders at least. Which is Coco. It's got that Coco musk to it.
Musk is the way to describe it. Very musky.
Yeah. So if the builders were anonymous, we would have still been able to tell. Here's a question for the admins, so Liam or Posix, if you're around. What was the thought process around immediately revealing the builders? I like it. I'm not complaining by any means. I was just curious about the thought process behind that decision, if there was one.
I can answer that.
Yeah, go for it.
It's pretty simple, actually. It's like if we keep it anonymous and then reveal it later, it adds extra steps to the whole process. And it just adds up. So in the idea of this contest is that it's more light and more simple. Oh, I'm sorry for the noise. More simple, and that also goes for us. Like, it's also light to produce this contest for us, relatively speaking. Does it still work?
Absolutely. I think you've put a lot of hard work into it. It certainly feels more contesty than the head-to-head 8 out of 8 was.
Yeah, definitely. But maybe a difference is also that head-to-head 8x8, whatever, was held like pretty much immediately after head-to-head, and now we had a year in between.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really have the same timing, and last time it was more of like a cool-down contest for the few people that still had some fuel in the tank.
Yeah.
And now people are already getting fired up, which we're seeing with the high effort parts we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's take this opportunity to give a big thank you to the admins for always putting in, going above and beyond for the community. It's something that we say thank you often, but we should say thank you more. So I want to see thank yous in the chat if anyone's listening. Big love heart from Gustav there. But yeah. Ethan, have you got anything that you want to share about the park? What did you contribute to this park, Ethan?
Yeah, so it's supposed to be like a pizza place in Kansas City called Smallpox Pizzeria. And the whole like gimmick of it is that they only serve grease cup pepperoni and it's bison meat. And when you get like the delivery box, it's like a woven blanket and a rawhide instead of like an actual cardboard box. So it's like more environmentally friendly. I did some of like the track texture, like the silo thing and like the ring thing. Just like some kind of like it's like a grungy kind of like the game Borderlands was like one of the inspirations of it originally, but a lot of the park was like already there, like in terms of like large shapes and like the layouts, because it's like one of Coco's projects. Or apparently it was like a design with POSIX who said something about like the ride intensity. So he ended up just bringing it back for the start of the contest, and I just did like a lot of like the landscaping and like minor track texture, like the little like sand piles and like some of like the softening up the edges like on the rocks and stuff.
Yeah.
To kind of like get some momentum.
So essentially, you were performing that vital task, which is bringing it across the finish line.
Sorry, I like it cut out. What did you say?
So you were performing the vital task in any of these sort of team competitions, which is bringing it across the finish line after the main builders have been sprinting for a long time.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was mostly like when he was away, like, and he was like busy doing stuff, and then he was the one that was really like kind of like the last day or few days or two, he like wrapped it all up and like did like most of like the architecture and stuff.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this: it feels very complete, but it also feels quite punky as well. It feels quite off the cuff, which I'll put to its credit. It feels very natural, whilst not feeling like it's trying too hard. It feels annoying. It feels like very talented people built this, who it comes easily to, and I hate that about it. But yeah, this one won my vote just based on the charisma of the experience alone. But let us move on to the other one, which is, of course... Oh, thank you so much, Ethan. We'll mute you in a second. Thank you so much. If you've got anything you want to shout out, any projects that are coming our way that you want to give spoilers to, do shout it out before I mute you.
Yeah, we'll see next round.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming to speak with us. Let's get rid of that guy. Get the hell out of my channel, Ethan. Right. Now, who have we got from this park? Bear in mind, Liam, I am able to mute you. I've been given power that I shouldn't have. We discovered earlier. Are you still eating your pizza?
Nah, I'm done. Sad.
What kind of pizza was it?
Was mozzarella and pesto.
Okay, mozzarella isn't vegan, so I'm going to delete one ride for that. Pesto is vegan, so that's fine. Have you got anything else you want to share with us? Bear in mind, it could.
There was no meat.
There was no meat. Okay, good stuff. Right, let's reopen that.
Well, I didn't mind it. It's not the best coaster in the park.
This is true. Was it a later edition?
No.
Was it in from the beginning?
No.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. I'll mute you now.
You're a good interviewer.
Yeah. Yeah, let's just do the tour. If you hop in with any comments that you want to make along the way, and I'll no doubt have some questions by the end. This one is very much it's going to get a lot more easy to talk about the parks now we've got past the first one, because now we can talk in terms of contrast. Compared to the Atar Pit Lacuna, Limelight Lake, which is built 60% by our lovely Liam, we've got 20% of Scoop in there, and Big Shooter Gil got 20% of it as well. It feels a lot more. I'm just being told now, newsflash, pesto is not vegan. I've got to delete another ride. This one feels a lot more like a classic park. A lot more relevant to the era. So if that is something that you're giving points to, perhaps this is why more people voted for this park. I had a difficult time choosing between these two. I only really went for the one that I went for, which was a Tar Pit Lacuna, just because it catered more to my preference. But the vote could have gone either way. We've got our signature new element. We could probably copyright the concept of the central body of water with corner themes. It seems like we've got an entrance area which is quite neutral, quite small. We've got this East Asian section, we'll call it. We've got this sort of Central or South American themed section, and we've got a medieval Europe themed section over here, which are all of them very easy to pull off. So great choices to quickly make a round one park and have it really be effective. We've got a lot more rides. It's a lot more traditionally parky as well. I think the best part of this park is probably this little section here. It's just I have no comments for it other than saying great job. There's nothing that I'd say needs improving about this at all. I love the station for this part as well. I'm gonna exploit our cheats menu and disable weather changes, make it sunny. Yeah, would you like to share with us about the building process? What was your thought process going in this? You have the majority share here, Liam.
Yeah, so the idea was that we were gonna do a mini spotlight. That was the working title. That's also why we chose the park name, because a limelight is like a type of spotlight. And we went with the cliche Center Lake Four Corners. And we kind of went with, if each area is like a 40 by 20 rectangle, then it should all fit. So we were each given like one corner. And I actually planned my area, the one we're looking at. I was actually working on another park that has yet to come out. And while I was working on that, we were discussing this park on the Discord. And I quickly made like a mock-up of what a 20 by 40 rectangle could be like. I spent like 10 minutes on it. But it was actually pretty good area layout, so that's this. So I planned this in 10 minutes. It was just like, I don't know, it was lightning in a bottle. And then I built most of it over maybe 2 sessions. So it was amazingly quick. And Big Shooter had the castle area, which was built a bit later, and Scoop did the East Asian area. But they are less used to the game, so they were not as fast as I did. So I ended up helping them and filling the entrance area. But in each area I tried to like stick to their style. So in Big Shooter Gill's area I wanted to blend in. I want to be invisible. Same with Scoop. Yeah. Because I want them to be featured on the map, so I'm not going to hijack their areas. Just going to support them. I want to give a shout out to Scoop actually, because like this is a very traditional park, but his area is more experimental in a way. Like the way the buildings are not that cliche. Like the big 4x4 squares, that's pretty ballsy. So that makes it a little more interesting, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think what you were saying about the sort of mini spotlight thing super interesting, because that's exactly the vibe that I got from it. So that really came across. it's and I guess we can talk about the comments that you made about wanting for. When you're building a park, do you want for it to come across? It's going to go by by case basis, obviously. Is it the intent of the park to have a cohesive voice, or do you want for the individual talents, the individual idiosyncrasies of your builders to shine through?
I mean, it's not black and white. Like we were all building within the same vision what kind of park it was going to be. So it was going to be a throwback park, cliche themes. But it would be boring if it looked like it was one person. So there's definitely a quality of group parks that's worth preserving, as in every area has its own unique style. Yeah, there's a balance.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic answer. Was there would you, if given more time, have made this peepable?
No.
Fair enough, because it wouldn't be in the spirit of the time, and it's hard work to do that with loopy landscapes. It's
not worth the effort.
It's not worth the effort. No, I do remember the first time I saw the Ozone Park where he'd done wide paths in loopy landscapes, and the only thing I could think when I was looking at it was, this must have taken so long.
I remember that it fucked up his park. Like, he couldn't finish the park properly because it was so buggy that he could hardly build in it at all.
Man.
And Alex and I had the same problem with Panoptica Peaks in the Olympics.
Yeah.
It actually came with two versions, because if we opened the ride, the save game would be open, it would crash like after a minute. Because making it people just fucked up the park. Like, Peeps plus Codex is just very dangerous.
You're asking for trouble. We're not all roomy. We don't have these special loopy landscapes whispering powers. No, did I say roomy? If I didn't, I meant to say roomy. Well, yeah, this is an extremely competent park. It really sort of. I'm interested to. Let me restart my brain there. It was interesting to hear your intent for going with it, because that definitely came across. It's definitely what I felt from it. So, a success story in that regard. And it's. I'll just double check before I go congratulating you. It did win in the end, didn't it? Yeah, it won in the end. So congratulations on the win. A good fight as well. We do like our close matches. We've got a lot of these coming up. So let's move on to the next one. Ooh, interesting. You're posting in pictures. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with the park, Liam. Much appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And let's move on to round 1, match 2, which is us. All right. Do we have a Walto in here? And does a Walto have a mic? I'm going to unmute you. And if you have your mic...
Am I unmuted? Hello?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. What time is it over on your end?
10:30 a.m.
Cool, nice and early.
Yes, sir.
And this park gives a very 10:30 a.m. vibe.
Yeah, very sleepy, very relaxing. That's kind of what I was going for. I think 2005 was much simpler in more ways than just Roller Coaster Tycoon, so I wanted to get a park that was just very calming to look at.
Interesting. I like that.
Mrs. Walto's yelling from the other room. She says to highlight her pond.
Which pond was Mrs. Walto's on? Was it this one?
Yeah. With the little flowers there.
Well, great work. It's as ponds go. I really like it.
Thank you.
I was during the draft. I was excited to see if anybody would draft Mrs. Walto just for the controversy. But I'm glad that cooler heads prevailed, and Mrs. Walto could work with you to contribute on this book.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think she picked up the game about a year ago, and comes and goes. When the contest was announced, I told her it's a little more casual, something that you might be able to have a little fun with. So it's a different experience living with somebody that you're building a park with. A lot of the time, it ended up being she would play The Sims, and I would build on the park, and then we would just look at it, and she would give ideas, and that's how she would contribute more than actually building. So that's a lot of fun and kind of weird and nerdy and dorky, but that's kind of how we are. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, it's where you got to be. And I would say as well, it is an ideas park. It's not necessarily the most flashy park, but it rewards you for looking around. So we've got all of our... Are these builders from around the time that you've named all of these? Did you have to go back through the forums, or was this all pulled from memory?
So some from memory, but mostly looking at old parks. I spent a lot of time looking around because it was before I had joined the site, so I knew some of the classics, but a lot of other parks I just had not looked around. So it was a good experience for me to go back and realize who was there at the time and appreciate what they had done.
What year did you join? What year did you join?
2009, I believe.
Interesting. Were you a lurker before then?
Yeah, I think I lurked for a little while. I think G Wiz was doing his Cedar Point recreation, and that really kind of drove me to play the game more. And then I was a lurker during Head-to-Head 5, and that was just that was when it really started. I think that was kind of where it entered the modern era. I think, and modern is continually changing, but that's when it really started to turn. I think was around that period.
It is, it's interesting to think about particular eras. It is very sort of like a fluid sort of non-contiguous, and of course you have particular landmarks, which are like when new games come out, when the open era is obviously the one that's kickstarted a lot of innovation, but a lot of new activity from new players as well. That's a very significant one. But other than that, it's interesting to think when those landmark moments were.
Yeah, definitely. I think Head-to-Head kind of is always it's kind of the pulse of the community. I kind of think of it that way. Every 3 years, we have a massive jump in activity and innovation, and new faces come in and old faces come back, and that's kind of how I think about it.
Absolutely. So this is the first Roller Coaster Tycoon park we've looked at so far. What was your philosophy around picking objects?
I think I picked the Pro Tour 2 bench, and then occasionally added things here or there that were close to the era. So I think, just started with Pro Tour 2 and didn't deviate too far from it.
Yeah, you can't go too far wrong with that.
Yeah.
Did you add the coaster for a bit of movement? Because otherwise the park's quite static, isn't it? And that really adds to the calm. We've got a lovely... You can't go wrong with a water wheel. Was the coaster always in the plan from the beginning, or did you find that it might need a bit of movement, a bit of roller coaster for the Roller Coaster Tycoon?
Yeah, I think that's right. It was a later addition. Because like you said, the park, there's not a lot actually happening. There's no peeps. There's really no rides. It's not trying to be an amusement park in any way. So So I felt like I needed something to just have a little bit of action and intrigue, and who doesn't love a layout, you know?
This is true. It's very. I love this stacked helix sort of idea that's going on here.
Yeah, that actually. I really loved the coaster in the Good Death. I think you worked on that park, right?
I did, yeah. I interfered mostly. I described my contribution as interfering and setting things back.
There's a park in the next round where that was about what I did. But yeah, I loved the double turnaround in that coaster in the Good Death, and I wanted to do something similar. So
yeah,
working on it, and then eventually just played around with the number of trains and the timing, and got a nice little racing section right there.
consider yourself muted, Extreme. Just post in the chat if you actually want to talk. You're in prison. Yeah, I'll tell you this. I don't remember the coaster in the Good Death. So I'll just assume that I was the inspiration for that moment, and that's what you were going for. I'll say this as like a moment of feedback. I understand completely why you went for what you went for here, but what I think could have done well as well, and if I were to do it, I would have petitioned strongly for this, is more of a gentle ride. So think maybe a side friction coaster or something like that, and you could flex your more broad roller coaster building techniques to sort of like carry on the theme that you really established really strongly throughout the rest of the park. It isn't necessarily, contradicted by the coaster. I wouldn't go that far at all, but I think it could have been more supported by something like that. But we can by no means criticize this park, because it did win the round and you went up against our team as well. So we can assume that any criticism on my part comes down to jealousy.
No, it's an interesting observation, and I hadn't really thought about that. Maybe next time I should draft you earlier.
That would be categorically a mistake. I think any time I'm drafted too soon. I think the only appropriate time I've been drafted was last head-to-head, where I was picked up as a floater, which is a ridiculous thing to have happened, and it was definitely overpowered. But yeah, great work, Steve. Great work being in the right place at the right time, Steve. Oh, yeah, I think in terms of head-to-head, my contributions are always overvalued. Just because...
That was a nicely timed yawn. I think the park is doing its job of putting you to sleep.
Yeah, it's working. The spell has been cast. I'm under its power completely. Yeah, let's move on to the other one. Thank you so much, Walter, for coming and talking with us. It was really interesting to hear sort of like your philosophy behind this park. And thanks for a great match as well. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for the stream.
You're very welcome indeed. Go to prison. Right, Extreme, it's us up next. So let's get you unmuted if you've got anything that you want to say about the charismatic... Oh, he can't speak at the moment. Are you on holiday, Extreme? It is. I really enjoyed contributing to this one. It's a park that contrasts a lot with Willow Bell. I was really curious to see that one come up against this one and see how people would feel about it. I feel like it genuinely could have gone either way, so I wasn't surprised at all to see that we'd been beaten. This park came up as a mainly lurker park to begin with. it was a park that was almost completely finished in a matter of moments by the prodigious Lurker. And then Extreme and I sort of swept in at the last moment to take credit for all of his hard work. So something that I love about this park is it's peaceable, and it has a very classic feel to it. Not necessarily 2005. I think that people were building enormous footpaths and whatnot at that point, but the spirit of it does feel like something from back then. It's very specifically themed, but with a lot of novel ideas as well. So it came through where most of the park sort of looked at like this area here, but then after a bit of discussion with everybody, Extreme decided that the best course of action was a more significant moment, sort of ride moment, because Lurker makes these really brilliant small rides, but he felt like a bit of contrast was in order, something built a bit taller, because Lurker's style is very small and very sort of compact, and that's where that sort of toy room, cute sort of feel that we know and love comes from. So this was entirely Extreme, I think. I'll describe my contribution just to get it out of the way. I built this sort of area here. I did a lot of the landscaping, a lot of the foliage. I heroically came in at the last moment to carry this park over the finish line. It would have been impossible without me. You're welcome, team. No, they would have got it done in the end. I just came in and made their lives a bit easier, to be honest. The environment was very sort of its time. We don't really see too much of this in Loopy Landscapes nowadays, but it was really fun to sort of bring it to life and do it in a way that works with everybody's styles. And of course, there's this coaster here, Volcanic Voyage, which is goes backwards and forwards though. Ah man, we missed the pipes. What is Levis gonna think? Where's this water coming from? So something that we really wanted to do is which we should really see more of nowadays, the powers that we have in terms of hacking and stuff. Why don't we see more of the coasters that go backwards and forwards? I think there's more of a lean towards realism, obviously, but who cares, man? These are so cool. And they're very much a staple of when I was joining the community and looking back over the contemporary parks of that time. So it was fantastic to see more of this. I think this was entirely Extreme who did this. And it's super charismatic. It really adds to the park. And I think Extreme also built this very contemporaneous Wave Rider thing. I mean, it looks like shit, but it looks like how they looked then. So in that regard, it looks perfect. I'm having a small heart attack. I have these sometimes. I'm allergic to chatting shite constantly, so... Okay, it's passed. I'm still alive, I'm just having a drink. Nobody think I've succumbed to the heart attack. Yeah, those Nate flats are really... They're very gestural. They ask you to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of interpreting what is actually going on, but it really works. They got the point across, which is the main thing. So it's really fun to see some of them in action. So yeah, this park made for a very tight match. So I really appreciate Walto and their team's contribution, and they took the round. Let's have a look at what the round 1, match 2. So they won by only 2 votes. So a well-earned victory there, guys. It could have gone either way. And I'm glad that we lost to a park that was so peaceful and calm. And it was really a breath of fresh air. So thank you so much for that really great round. Let's move on to round 2. Let's get some woohoos in the chat. Right, let's go. We got Faz, we got Gustav Goblin. Culinarium. Am I opening the right thing? Let me just double check. Round 2, match 1. Right, Gustav, let's get you in here. Where are you? There you are.
Thank you, thank you.
Here he is. How are you doing?
Yeah, so... Oh, lovely, lovely. So nice to see you doing this, man.
Well, it's so nice to be here. I'm glad that so many people have showed up. Thought it was going to be a bust for a moment because nobody was showing up at the beginning. But so glad that everyone's here.
Come again? I had AFK for a bit. You say something, or...?
I was just talking about how I was worried that people weren't going to show up for a moment, but then everybody flooded in once the notification.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got kind of a crowd. We got my captain in the voice chat, so I gotta watch my tongue. Don't want to get kicked off in the middle of my park.
This is the truth.
Yeah.
It's a very politically charged time head to head. You got to watch your words. You've got to watch your attitudes. Otherwise, you're going to get kicked to the curb. You're going to get your work deleted. I wonder if that's ever happened, to be honest. If someone's been shit talking and then their captain's gone, all right, here's a slap on the wrist. We're deleting your save file. Got to get people in line.
We're deleting all your contributions to the park. Start them over.
That does occasionally happen when there's a conflict in more in like a proper head-to-head where who you have building when is so important because there's so many things that would block them off. That's a thing that definitely happens. But yeah, do we have anyone else from your team in here who can? Oh yeah, we need to turn water opaque.
Yeah, actually, Walto did do a little bit of the entrance, so I mean, if you want to get Walto on here, Walto could talk about it too. But yeah, my little contributions here were, if you kind of go back to where we were, actually, you know what, right here, down the bottom, that Riverwalk, near the bottom of the screen, with like the river kind of going past it, I did most of the edge of that.
Oh, bro. So how would you...
And then...
Oh, go on.
What's up?
No, I was interrupting you. I'd asked you to talk about it. Go on. What were you saying?
So yeah, I did sort of the edge of the Riverwalk. I just sort of extended it out, and then I just sort of extended the river past there because I was trying to figure out how to sort of get the path out to still look contingent. At one point, the path almost went off the map, but something in my gut told me, "Hey, that ain't right. Keep it like end it off at that bridge." And then when Foz mentioned having water there, I'm like, "That's it. That has to be what we do there." And then the contribution I'm more proud of, actually, if you go back to where we started.
This one here.
Yep, my little fondue factory. So, actually, I could talk about this because it's probably not coming out. In the weeks before this, over the course of the first 2 rounds, I was soloing the Loopy Landscapes Park. It sucked. I'm not fond of it. Yeah, so I can probably leak some little fun facts about it. I may post a screen later. It was sort of... I may finish it as a solo work later, I don't know. I'm not super proud of it. It was based around an oasis, sort of like Huacachina in South America.
Okay.
Where it's like in the middle of like but there's an oasis and there's a little resort town built around it. But then there's also a really big like hill with a bunch of cliff dwellings built into it, which was inspired by an idea Kumba had earlier on in the contest. Because originally it was sounding like we'd have 2 Loopy Landscapes Park, one Foz Terry, and one me and Kumba, but Kumba's Loopy Landscapes wasn't working at the time, so it kind of changed. But yeah, I'm kind of getting off topic. Point is, I was having a really hard time with it, hitting a lot of walls. That first round with all the Loopy Landscapes Parks actually kind of broke me, because, like, I'm looking at, like, Limelight Lake, which is just so, like, perfect. Tar Pit Lacuna was super, super unique. Limelight, not Limelight, freaking Tropical Thrills is whoa. And then I load up my blob. Like, this isn't really contest level. And I know it was unfinished in hindsight.
Yeah. Well, I'll interject
Yeah, I
at
decided
this
to-
point before you talk yourself down too much.
Yeah.
I'll give the immortal Jake the Dog quote from Adventure Time. Sucking at something is the first step to being sort of good at something. So you've got to take those L's in the beginning and have those parks where you just go, this isn't getting me anywhere. Otherwise, you're not going to get any better. Nobody starts being amazing, so don't beat yourself up too much about making something that's really dog shit, because it's got to come. You've got to have those dog shit moments, and you've got to learn from them. That's all part of the process of learning.
Come on, literally my first Loopy Landscapes park ever. And
exactly,
I mean, I'm also
and it is a very challenging game as well. It is way more challenging than Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, just because it takes a lot more to get your ideas from your brain onto the screen.
Yeah, like everything has to be based on really simple forms and stuff like that. There's a lot of little tricks like the ghost train windows that are just super annoying.
Well, but this is the thing. You've made a small contribution to this park, but no doubt helped it cross the line. Those 5% are often really important. So yeah, I'm glad your team felt very fortunate that you'd come along to help them out with that. Because there's so many ideas in this park that I'll just sort of breeze through them a bit, because I'm aware that we've not got all night. So just so that I'll be able to keep my thoughts straight, I'm going to kick you out. Thank you so much for sharing with us your contributions to this park and sharing a bit behind the scenes. Mucho appreciated. Is there anything that you want to shout out before you go?
Yeah, so a few things. First off, big props to Foz for leading the charge on this park. I think, considering he was one of our few Loopy Landscapes builders, I think he really did something noble for our team by going the Loopy Landscapes route. Genius theme. I know Foz loves to, like, really find a charming little theme and then just go absolutely ham on it. And I think using the food stalls and stuff, and like the cauldrons in the past for like spaghetti, and like just turning it into a food themed park, I think was just genius. And even though it didn't win, I still think this is a very, very lovely park. And, you know, working on this was really fun. It was a nice breath of fresh air. I realized, hey, Loopy Landscapes is actually really fun when you're doing really simple, hack-free stuff. And, yeah, expect big things from me in round 5. I'm doing a PT2 style park I may or may not have lost custody of. But
that's all part of the process as well, isn't it? So
yeah.
I'll cut you off before you share too much. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
for
I don't
coming.
want to leak too
appreciate
much.
it.
All I want to say is I'm really in love with the theme. I could not have asked for a better set of players to be working with right now, and I'm super
been on our team.
Oh my god, dude! To be a Barglehead would have been sick, man. I mean, literally just being on the same team as AVC would have been enough.
Nah, he's a nightmare. Don't listen to any of the AVC hype. No, he's brilliant. It really was fantastic to be on a team with AVC and just watch Viori Cove. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm going to call it Viori Cove. That was a magical experience.
That's what I say too.
You are absolutely correct to be jealous. Thank you so much. I'm going to kick you out now.
Thanks again, Sammy. It was a real pleasure, man.
You're very welcome, and thank you. Go to prison. Get the hell off my stream. So yeah, let's quickly breeze through this park. I'm conscious of the time is all. The focus on food on this, and the fact that it's no hacks, all of the novel ideas in here are just genius. And I hope that this is one that people come back to just for how charismatic it is. Every idea is sort of very obvious and on the surface and blatant, which is part of it being Loopy Landscapes, because it's a very blunt game. There's not a lot of subtlety when it comes to Loopy Landscapes. But honestly, Faz, all these ideas, fantastic. Gustav and Walto helping taking it across the line. Brilliant. You should be really, 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 really proud of this. Yeah, let's have a look at what the next thing is. Oh, this one. Gross. So, Leon's always scary. I had the pleasure of being on a team with him a couple of head-to-heads ago, and he's a scarily good builder. This park, again, it's a very sort of contrasty park with the last one. This one is very much, here's something that's more new, but is by no means, it doesn't feel like cheaty, if that's how you'd like to put it. I wouldn't really call it cheaty, but this, it's got a really novel theme. The ceramics aspect and these pots and stuff, just great, just a great idea. I don't know how you guys think of this stuff. I guess you just get inspired, don't you? The rides, I don't like this one so much. It is good though. I don't really have anything to criticize about it, so I don't blame anyone for if they thought that this coaster was really good. The one I prefer, and this kind of ride feels very much like a Who's Leon coaster. I feel like we've seen during Micro Madness he was making ones like this. But yeah, these little warehouses, whereas the other one was a bit more fantastical, this one's a bit more grounded, but having these fantastical elements. So for as much as there's contrast between them, there is also a lot that they have in common. It was a really interesting matchup. I went with this one in the end, just because I preferred the overall execution of it more. It was a park that was more made for me. I loved this Virginia Reel. I just think it's fantastic, like a more fantasy Virginia Reel. We need more stuff like that. Like, it's a novel bit of ride design. I love the negative space as well. These tune blocks almost caused controversy before we realised that they were like land objects built by Toon from back in the day. I am sort of like 99% joking about that, by the way. No, I'm 100% joking. It wouldn't have caused controversy at all. I'm just taking the piss a bit before people go thinking that any of our team care at all about head-to-head in general. All we care about is making sure there's great RCT all the time. That is the thesis statement of the Barnacle Heads. But yeah, really great, fantastic pull. I'd really love to see. Is there anybody who built this in here? It would be Who's Leon and Scoop. Have we got a Scoop in here? Have we got a Leon? No, we haven't. You will be punished accordingly, guys. You're not here to defend yourself, so let's all call it rubbish. This is all rubbish. I'd really love to at some point hear what these guys are saying about these parks. Oh, they're in the disaster bench. Thank you, Space K, for providing a little bit of context there. Well, they're not a disaster object. They look really cool. But yeah, really fantastic round here. I don't know why. I'll be very honest and say I don't know why the match was such a runaway victory by Sunday's Best. I think it was a lot more close than the voting made it out to be. I didn't expect the Culinarium to be such an underdog, but that might just be my opinion on the matter. But yeah, I also love this part, like spotlight material right here. Straddling the void for some less than necessary bits of supports. Was this like towing the line of what people would accept when it comes to... It was a shout out to Voodoo Laos. I don't know that little bit of history. If someone wants to drop a screen in, that would be fantastic. But I'm going to move on to the next round because we've not got anyone here to talk to us about this one. Fantastic round. Really well done, Leon. Really well done, Scoop. Congratulations on the victory. Well earned. It could have gone either way, but it was a sort of a bit of a landslide for you guys. For reasons I don't know, because they were both really, really good. Round 2, match 2. Oh no, it's getting to... Have we got any from this one? Do we have a Morgan? Do we have a Incities? Do we have a Fish? Please stand up if you are around. We're looking at Eden. There's lots I want to talk about with this one, so it's a shame that nobody's around. One day I might be able to forgive you guys. So yeah, this is an interesting one. This was up against my park. I'm just reading the comments at the side, that's why I'm not talking. Extreme's typing, let's see what he's going to say. So as soon as I opened this up after seeing the matchup, I needed new trousers on both ends. This was scary to come up against because it's really, really, really good. The only thing I would say about it that drags it back, and it might be the thing that won us the victory, spoiler alert, was that it's a bit too modern, I think. There's the fact that we've got track elements that were released literally days before the round came out. May have affected people's perceptions on it being sort of contemporaneous to the time, but there's so much else going to it that feels like a cop-out explanation, because who cares? It's just transparently fantastic Roller Coaster Tycoon. So if we talk about it literally, if we were to mute everything, we were to just look at it and we were to not understand what the theme is and everything, the structures, the forms, everything like that is just brilliant. It's just fantastic. The execution is just... It's just fantastic. It's fantastic. But then when you factor in the theme, which is like a Garden of Eden, but like specifically for Roller Coaster Tycoon, and then we see the fact that everybody looks like they're naked, and we've got a commentary that's talking us through the history of New Element. I mean, why should I have felt confident at all that we were going to win this? Oh, shut up, Extreme. You're only allowed to bully me like this in the team channel. I would say, yeah, Goblin, I'd agree with that. This one isn't really doing that much at all for me. But this one sort of ticks the boxes of what it's supposed to do rather well, methinks. Like I said when I was reviewing it, what's so fantastic about this new ride is that it's dynamic and it has all of the best elements and whatnot, but it's not too obstructive. So it's perfect for contexts like this when you want to add a dynamic element to an already quite busy environment. If we were to change this to Twister Coaster track, this would sort of border on incomprehensible. So very wise decision to use something like that instead. Would they, my comment saying, is it too modern? If they'd used a different track, would they have won? I don't know. That's just speculation on my part. I'm just thinking. I'm just curious as to why we won. It was only by one vote, but I'm taking the victory and I'm holding it high. So yeah, I think everything that I'd like to say about this has already been said. It's just fantastic. Really well done, guys. I'd love to speak with you guys about it if you're available at another time. to hear your side of the story, but I only really have good things to say about this one. Fantastic matchup. Let's have a look at my park. And if are there any Milos or anything around? I know we've got a Extreme, who was really helpful on this. So we don't have a Milo. We'll make sure to ban him from the Barnacle Heads afterwards. Yeah, this is everyone's opportunity to compliment me if they want to. Right, Between the Rivers, this was my one. I built most of it, but it wouldn't have really been possible without the contributions of Extreme and especially Milo, who was more than anything a cheerleader, a companion during the building process. He was always around, because I'd stream whilst I was building this park, just because I kind of need my hand held in a lot of situations, and I'm like, is this right? I don't want to get too far ahead before people can feedback on stuff. And Milo was always there to say, change it, do something like this instead, or you know, you're on the right lines, which is what he said for the most part, thank goodness. The reason why we went for this theme in particular was because I love history of any nature, but I also love the beginnings of civilization. And this is based around the sort of beginning of city-states and stuff like that. So we've got the main... I know what I wanted to do was have a ziggurat structure. I wanted to do it sort of that deserty kind of theme, lots of light browns and whatnot, because that is something that's really important when you are building in loopy landscapes. You want to lean into themes that are convincing using the limited object choices that you have available to you. So things like castle themes, you know, like Asian themes, stuff like that, where you've got the objects that will support you and you don't have to ask the audience to do very much heavy lifting in that regard. So I really wanted to see what we could do with a overdone sort of theme, and I think that we really broke new ground just in terms of more modern approaches to older themes. I'd sort of thank you, Extreme. It was something that I came up with early with, but I was really struggling with the context of where to put it in relation. It was much closer. It was more over here where the whatever this thing's called, the Sky Swat, I think it's called. It was here initially, and the coaster sort of went on top of it a bit. But the team, this is why building in the competitions is so good, because the team fed back and they went, that looks rubbish, and I said I agree. And it was AVC who sort of put in some sketches and said maybe you could change the map layout so it's more like this. And this was when it was literally only a roller coaster and a ziggurat. That was all that was there. But then AVC jumped in and did like a quick sketch. Maybe it could be more like this. I didn't go with exactly what he suggested, but his suggestion was necessary for me to reach this conclusion. To bounce off those suggestions was really good. And people like Magnus were always there to give feedback as well as all the other guys. Extreme, obviously, he's the captain. Of course, he was around making sure that he was cracking the whip. So yeah, the thing that I began with was the roller coaster. It all sort of came together really quickly. I had it really early in the competition. I'd had an idea to do this whole thing. So I sort of hit the ground running. I just sort of started building, and it's not often that I lead a park. It's only really in these competitions that I do, just because I feel like I just don't have the psychology for it for some reason. I get all in my head for no reason, and I appreciate that that I shouldn't, but I do for some reason. So it was really good to find myself in a context where the stakes were lower, and I really got to stretch my legs, not worry about anything. My dominant feeling as I was building was just build it for fun. You're going to make a park that's like how you build them normally, so just just relax for a minute. Which may be relatable to some people and may seem insane to other people. So the ziggurat, I thought would be a good idea because I had a really clear idea of how to do it as well. These layered tracks came together really quickly. They were really easy to get done, so I could move it. I didn't feel like I was locked into where I was. I could move it to where it eventually wound up. I did separate those two ideas. There was a lot of discussion whether we should make that the ride station, but I thought, no, that's too on the nose. I want to have them as two separate ideas. So the station that I went with was more of a hanging gardens thing. And because we have this dueling aspect here, but it's in that Mobius form, I called it Succession. So it was a more to do with the rulers of ancient times were priests. So we've got priests on this side, and then we've got powerful families on this side, and the battle for succession there, because one gets there obviously higher than the other and one goes higher than the other, and they had those different experiences because they were that probably makes sense. But yeah, absolutely, it was really fun to think this up. This was sort of imagined by me, but would have been impossible without Milo, who has all of the expertise to make that sort of stuff. The village area, I wasn't sure what was going on here, but Extreme came in, zhuzhed it up a little bit, and then with that I could move forward and sort of finish up the rest of it. It was a very team experience. It was a very holistic experience as well. It really sort of got from point A to point B really quickly with very clear ideas. We weren't really confused at any point, which is brilliant. Thank you so much to Milo for everything that Milo did in this park. I'm sad that he can't be here to defend himself from my allegations of being lazy and stuff like that. It really was fantastic, and Extreme, you did a brilliant job as well. So let's move on. Milo is one of my favourite builders, just full stop, so it was really fantastic to build with Milo. But I shall move on. Thank you to InCity's Morgan Fan, Fish, Milo and Extreme for such a fantastic round. It was really nail-biting, but I came out on top, so suck it. Fuck you. I'm taking that victory, I'm running with it, taking it to the bank, nobody can take it back. Though I would have quite liked it if it was a draw. I feel like that would have been more appropriate, but a victory is a victory. I'm not going to say no to it. Round 3, match 1 we're on to. Do we have an Otter Salad? Do we have a G-Force? Just on my other laptop, I'm going to get this round up. Round 3, match 1. Do we have an Otter Salad? Do we have a G-Force? Those were the only two builders. Okay. Oh, thank you, Posix. Thanks. Everyone give a big thank you to Posix for getting the event thing sorted. It's something that they definitely didn't have to do, but they did. They made a bit of like a centerpiece for the Discord for the moment. Thank you so much. Thank you for the trust. Really appreciate it. Oh, stop it, Posix. You get out of here, you rascal. Yeah, this was a very... Round 3 was a fantastic round for a lot of reasons. Really great time to be looking at the Roller Coaster Tycoon community. Round 3, fantastic work to everybody who was involved in this round. We're looking at Isola di Levanzo. I'm not going to say that again, I'm just going to call it Wine Park from here on out. The Otter Wine Park. We know this is an Otter Park because of the Otter Parkness. And because of the pixels, and because I've seen an Otter Park in my time. The suspended coaster is just so Otter that it hurts. It's a really good ride layout. Would I say it's perfect? No, I think it gets a bit tangly over here, but that's fine, that's not illegal. It's not illegal to like different things to what I like, and it definitely comes across charismatically. And of course, we've got a contender to the Best Virginia Reel of 2022 award in the form of this Jacoby Winery thing. This park is... I couldn't decide this round, but if I would have voted, it is possible that I would have voted for this one. Obviously, I didn't vote because I couldn't decide. But this park is just so serene and quiet, and it feels the way it should feel. Otter is such a fantastic builder. We know that people, I know that Extreme in particular loves this gesture here. He loves it to bits. He was never shutting up about it when it was when we were looking through it. It's also fantastic to see an open air station for once. Always fantastic. Every idea is just so charismatic. Just brilliant placement of this little arena here. Just 10 out of 10. I love it. It's just brilliant stuff. And seeing as there's no one here to defend the park, I think we'll move on before I, become too enamoured with the situation. I can see that Extreme's typing. First lift was sexy AF. You're not wrong there. I also love... There's something that I really love about the classic classic supports on everything. I just think they look really cool. And with modern building techniques, they look even better as well. So let's move on to the other one, which was Ethan and Baba Tapi. Let's see if Ethan's around. Ethan, do you have anything you want to say? I'm going to unmute you preemptively. And whoops, let's go in here and I'll just tag you, see if you've gone somewhere else. Ethan, would you like to talk about your park? Oh. Here is the Ethan. I've unmuted you, Ethan, so if you have something that you'd like to say, you are able to say it now. God fucking damn it. Going between the Discord and this leaves everything in there.
Alright.
Hello, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I have a burger now, so.
Say again?
I have a burger.
You have a burger. What kind of burger?
Yeah. Wagyu beef.
Okay, that's not vegan, is it? So we're going to have to delete a ride. There we go. That's a shame.
Yeah, go ahead and delete that coaster. I think that would do it some favors. Yeah, there you go.
We'll get on to that. Let's have a look. So like I was saying, I couldn't decide between these two. Where the other one was serene and really sort of clear. Hold on, I'm really distracted by the sounds. I'm going to have to turn them down a wee bit. In fact, I'll just turn them all the way down, just for the time being.
Yeah, that urban theme goes crazy.
It's really distracting, especially with the screaming and stuff. Where the other one was serene and very sort of... I don't know how to say it without sounding like I'm insulting this one. Let's just say it was really serene, really clearly laid out, all of those things. Not to say that this one isn't clearly laid out. This one was way more bombastic. It had a lot more novel choices of objects and stuff. It had a lot more ideas packed into it. Yeah, really, really high level stuff in this park. Yeah, first off, I'll let you talk about it for a little bit. What do you want to say?
There's a lot. I mean, I started it pretty early, and it was kind of like a disaster bench type deal. Because I was using a Harry Potter stuff, and then I just started to go for like a more like classic path type. And basically, like my two main rules was like use old objects and like try to keep the composition kind of old school. So like this Mediterranean area, the Atlantis area, is kind of got like this one like it's all brown. It's got like it's got those Twin Tower wood poles like for like the awnings, the, like lattice fences, stuff like that. And then the other side is definitely a lot more like color wise loud. But I was looking at, I put this in my write up. My biggest things were like probably like X Coaster, Disney Air, which was the Pro Tour 2 winner, I think. And then there was Dragon Park by Coaster Ed has like a lot of like architecture, and that coaster layout is some of an inspiration for this one too, because it has like the launch lift hill and then like the Heartline coaster tunnels and stuff like that. What else? A Corkscrew, yeah, because Corkscrew did a Disney Sea Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that about summarizes like the influences. Babar was originally building, then he got like caught up with some stuff. He built those sculptures, the parade. There's also a submarine inside the inverted hairpin coaster that he built. He was gonna do some other stuff, but yeah, he got too busy. He was just also like looking at it, and he was like, "Yeah, this is like way too over detailed and stuff." I was like, "Yeah." I don't know. He hasn't. I don't even know if he knows that this park is out and won, but yeah, I'll speak to him. But yeah, he just straight up disappeared like after like a first couple of days. But he said like, you know, it's just like, hey, he pretty much said like, hey, like I can't play, and we're like, we're just stay in here, and you know, in case you ever find the chance. But yeah, it's based off the real Port Discovery, Discoveryland, and then the Mediterranean Arbor, and then like the Atlantis, small like Atlantis structure that's in front of the volcano and Disney Sea.
Yeah.
Not sure what else. A lot of like the objects and stuff I dug up from like different websites, like RCT Fan, RCT Mart, or RCT Fun and RCT Mart. The Time Machine, the RCT Space website, stuff like that, and I found like a lot of like the Disney stuff, the Disney pieces. Like there's that Tower of Terror, which I themed to Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's not really, none of the actual rides are actually based off specifically the Verne novels, but they're more so just I named them after that, and like they're kind of like an individual thing because I don't really know too much about them to confidently say that this is a Jules Verne themed park. But the parade is inspired by this expo at Nantes, France. It's called Les Machinas Nantes, and it's like his hometown. And they built these animals, like these deep sea creatures, and then like this giant elephant that walked around the carousel. That was the inspiration for the parade.
I'm just going to grab some water because I've been talking for a long time. Keep serenading the crowd just for a moment, and then I'll be back to ask you the questions I want to ask. Is that cool with you?
Okay.
Very good.
All right. Anyways. I'm not even sure what to say. There's like a lot of like cursed shit like I found like that was just really fun to use it, and like again, like a lot of people pointed it out, it was definitely more like a
I'm back.
disaster bench map.
Real, I'm jealous that you got to build with Baba. He's one of my favorite builders at the moment. He just seems like he's having so much fun just all the time.
Yeah, the idea was brilliant. He gave like some good feedback early on. Like this was definitely, I feel like this was definitely up his alley. Especially since he's like actually familiar with the place, like where Vernie's from. He's actually like near there.
Yeah.
But you know, his contribution was, you know, really brilliant, and yeah, it's just a lot of like different things I kept adding on, like the palette, for example, like which is another like thing where it's like really like pushing like way far out. If you switch it back to natural water, besides like some purple roofs, that was actually like how I built a lot of the park. Like the station was purple against the salmon, but I made the palette just because I was like, damn, I love these colors.
Yeah.
They're all from like the Cocoa natural water, the natural colors palette.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that. There's that Journey, the elevators, CTR made by like Fisherman. Really not cool. CTR, but it was like an animated object. Yeah. Yeah, I have the tab selected. There is a Tower of Terror tab, and it has like a lot of like really interesting stuff for the ride, and some animated objects you can see. It's got the guy. It's the black and white guy, like a speaker.
This guy.
Second tab, yeah. Oh shit! I just selected everything. Well, you have the tab now, so it might have. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
so I'm gonna like a lot interrupt you, and I'm gonna do some harsh hosting as well. So if I interrupt you, just in the interest of time, I was really enjoying listening to you talking about it, and so yeah, thank you so much for sharing that stuff. But let's talk about this coaster for a second.
Oh no.
maybe I don't know how to finish that sentence. I'll start a different one, I suppose. So you're obviously giving off the impression that you're aware that I might have some feedback for it. Why is it that you feel that way?
Because I heard it from a lot of people. I even heard it from my team, but now on this version of it, I didn't. People were kind of like, okay, it's whatever. But my first layout was even worse. My first couple of them were like even worse. At least in my opinion, they were just like it was originally like kind of like a big ass like Expedition G-Force Giga Coaster, and that was just like it was like just there, honestly. And I don't know. I actually like I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool. I thought at least there's like some highlights to it, like that final drop and like the fake out, like it goes out the that right there where it just launched out there, and then it comes around and then it dives into the water.
Absolutely, there's a lot of positives that we have to do with this ride, but I'll just talk briefly about why it is that people might not be thinking that it's as successful as it could have been. Because there's definitely loads of charismatic moments in there. Like this bit here, just really gorgeous. I think one of the main issues we kind of saw when I deleted the ride is that it doesn't leave a gaping chasm where it was.
Right.
And part of that is because it's please forgive me, just paying for my drink there. Part of the reason why that is that it's not integrated into the environment in a way that's as charismatic as it could be. It's kind of sat on top of everything, which may have been a consequence of the late redesign. That might be the case. I'd say that the moments where it feels like it's really working really well is like this part here, the bits where it's going down here. And the launch obviously looks fantastic. It's by no means a bad ride, but because the quality of everything else is so high, what may have been a highlight in a lesser park comes across as a low light in a really good park. So I think that's how you should be sort of receiving the information that this ride could be better. It's not a insult to this coaster insofar as it's a compliment to everything else, because everything else is so high level. So the feedback that I'd give for it in terms of improving it, in fact for this I'll very briefly open up a different ride from this contest. Let's open up a tar pit. This is an extremely well integrated ride. The peeps
it's the same color scheme too.
Yeah, it's quite interesting in that regard, isn't it? The peeps are looking down onto it. The landscape is nesting all of the elements, making them seem very intentional, very natural. Like this part here, and it sort of jumps up over it and comes through here. It's very balletic. But on your one, it's kind of sat on top. They're very similar rides in a lot of ways, so it's a really good sort of reference point. So if we reopen up that one, what we want to be doing is making those, because if we do this again and we delete it, we kind of can't tell in a sense. And in a way, it makes everything feel more clear. And that's sort of a symptom of the issue that it's having.
Yeah.
Insofar as it is kind of sat on top. We miss it where it's properly integrated. So here we think, where's our ride gone? And up over here, where's our ride gone? Up through under here, where's our ride gone? But we should have way more moments like that. So if we reopen it. So down here, for example, looks so fucking cool down here. What I really would have pushed for if I were on your team was maybe push this out a little tiny bit and have the ride be able to interact with this, even if it's just one swoop. Yeah, and I think it really could have benefited from just being a bit shorter as well. It could have been a little bit shorter, and that would have left you with less opportunity for it to overwhelm the experience. Does all that stuff make sense, or was I just chatting bullshit for the entirety of that?
No, that's like, yeah, it's really a great like synopsis, because it like the psychological aspect of like a ride as like a purpose, and then like it would be one thing if it could just be like deleted, but there's also parts where like it can't be deleted. So like it's one of those things where it's like it's just ultimately just problematic a little bit. I see exactly what you're saying. It's like I don't have any like, you know, a special partiality to like the coaster at all. I mean, I totally get what people are saying, and I think it's just a good note for improvement for like later layouts I do, to be a little bit more purposeful.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Just a little bit more purposeful. There's no issues when it comes to like the flow or anything like that. Well, there's like a few issues, but every park has this. That's not an issue. I'm certainly not going to pull you up on it. Yeah. And just remember as well, people weren't criticizing because the ride is necessarily like super bad. They're criticizing because everything else was of such high quality, and that's definitely what I'd walk away with from that. Fantastic park. Thank you so much for sharing the experience with us. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to put you in prison now, but thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to share before you go?
Yeah, shout out Babar, shout out the team, and shout out Demigoddesses. Didn't really think I was gonna be able to win this one, so it was a great match, and yeah, thanks to everyone for all the feedback and whatnot.
Amen to that. Get the hell off my stream. Thank you so much, Ethan. Let's move on to the next round. That was a great discussion. Thank you, Ethan. We've covered them. Round 3, match 2. Right, first and foremost, let's have a look at this one. Now, this is such a brill park. Not Viore just yet. You'll have to wait a moment for Viore, because we've got our fellow combatant from this round. Let me just get the match thing up on my other screen. This is Sunday's best contribution to round 3. It is 90% Ulvenwood, it is 9% Scoop, and it is 1% Mulpje. The first thing that we can say about this is it's a very different approach than we've seen in the other rounds. They were very... it kind of makes all the other park submissions seem like they're lacking a sense of fun. When you look at this one, it really leans into the fun aspect of it. And it makes them seem like tryhards, like we're just stupid tryhards, which I don't appreciate. Never embarrass me like this, Sunday's best. Something that we can always anticipate from Ulvenwood is some wacky sculptures, and they certainly deliver in this park. All the sculptures and stuff are definitely a highlight, especially this like weird bum bunny hop is just appealing, just fundamentally. The overall vibe feels like a classic park, and although it's, you know, we can look at it, we can see straight away it's not necessarily going to be one of the big hitters from the competition, but I don't think people are going to forget it straight away. It's by no means a matter of it being boring or anything like that. It's a very interesting part to look through, and I think that everybody who's looked through it will agree on that count. This area in particular stands out just obviously because it's got this Mobius coaster that we've got here. I'm just going to go on see-through scenery mode, just so we can see it a bit more clearly. This is a Mobius triple jeweler, putting my single jeweler to shame. Really sort of embarrassing me on that one. It kind of, because of the way it's laid out, it kind of seems like it's got a lot more going on than it does, but that's, you know, you get a lot of bang for your buck with a triple jeweler, and it jewels itself really well as well. It has a few sort of moments of sort of flow issue, like here, this tiny turn here kind of doesn't work so well, but if you need to do that for it to get back to the station, you need to do that for it to get back to the station. I think that's really the only moment that stands out to me as kind of not working as well as it could, which is a big compliment to give a ride when there's only really one moment you want to talk about. It's integrated really well with like this stuff. I think with a bit more time, a bit more guidance, this could have been a big hitter, but I kind of feel like, I don't know whether it's been revealed or anything, what the philosophy about putting this one out was. It feels like it was a bit more of a quick addition, perhaps to like fill a role in this round. The sculptures are fantastic. All of the ideas are really novel. This is another one a bit like Culinarium, where like there's just so many really cool ideas, really novel concept. But I'll offer my criticisms now, and a lot of these are probably quite obvious. A lot of the park has been surrendered just entirely to water, which is good for like conservation of energy in terms of like putting the effort into where the effort should be, kind of thing. And there's loads of effort put into sort of these moments, which are really charismatic. But then we've got a big, boring bit of water here. It does feel a lot more like we're not... How do I want to say it? I want to say it like we're not striving for the same level of contemporary architecture expressed in a classic way. It's a lot more just classic, which is a compliment in a sense, because that's, you know, it's a really brave decision. I'd say that this park is a really brave park. It swings for the fences. I think it reaches those heights that it was kind of going for. All the sculptures are fantastic. All the ideas are fantastic. It just doesn't quite stick the landing that other parks were going for. It very much sticks its own personal landing, which is a huge compliment. Thank you very much to Ulvenwood for such a fantastic park, Scoop and Mulpier as well for your contributions. Let us move on to the absolutely disgusting Veery Cove. Do we have an iron in here? No, we don't. We do have a Mulder typing, maybe. He was here before, wasn't he? I did see him. Ew. Look at this disgusting park that we have before us. My experience with this park, I can cover really quickly, because I was building on it, and I was literally falling asleep whilst I was doing it. I would have built way more on it, by which I mean I would have helped a lot more with it, because I was very much following AVC's lead on it. But I was just so tired. So I did some foliage around here. I helped sort of get some of this stuff going, but everything that I did was finished up by other people, because I was falling asleep in my seat. I was trying really hard to be a good teammate, but this park is so boring that I couldn't keep my eyes open. It was a real... if AVC had built a more interesting park, I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have been able to build more on it. So shame on you, AVC, for making such a boring park, which nobody will remember. But into serious mode, if I stop blaming everybody for my sleep deprivation, this is such a gorgeous park. and it feels so of its time, but everything's kicked into overdrive in a way that only AVC can bring to life as well. Is he here? AVC! Do you have a mic, my friend? I've unmuted you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello!
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Well, I was joining the stream up here and there because we were in a car, but I'm finally back home.
Hey! Doing something interesting or just boring stuff? I presume it was boring stuff. What do you want to tell us about your experience on this park? I covered my experience with it by saying I was trying really hard to help, but I kept falling asleep. Yeah, I agree with Mulder. It is a noob park. Yeah, tell us about what you were thinking whilst you were building it and whatnot.
I guess we really just started with a flyer layout I had with no theming in mind, but we took inspiration from, I think it was Turtle, there was Artist, Jazz, where they had a lot of repetitive elements in the architecture, but it's all a generic beige theme, using a lot of the tune blocks and stuff from that era. Really like that look. Try to kind of say, okay, that's going to be the baseline concept for this generic NE fantasy. And I found it really easy to go quickly on it because it's just one motif. Once you find the combination of textures and stuff that worked when we tested out a few at the beginning, then it's just repeating it and iterating it in different forms. It's actually quite nice. And it was a very pleasant and fast build.
Yeah, I feel like every time I went into the channel and looked at the park when you did like uploaded a screen or a save file, I was like, what? Like, how have you built this much already? It really came together really quickly. So it was slow going at the beginning, wasn't it? But then sort of once you'd, like you say, once you'd got the grips with it, I was shocked every time I looked. I was like, what? What's going on? How has it been built so quickly?
And you know, that this was kind of a new building style for me because, I mean, a lot of the work that I try to do is very intentional what each building is for. Yeah. And there's a lot more consideration of the micro and the concept behind it, and it all has to fit. This way, it was there's no function to these buildings. Sometimes you put a pizza stall in one or a lemonade stall, but otherwise they're just there to exist, to look pretty. And it's a lot of 2x2s and 1x2s that you just stack together so it looks pretty. And that was really easy when you just take the land tool and just block it out as a mass. It's like, hey, this composition of buildings look good. And then you lower the land and you fill it in with the same set of walls and ornaments that you've selected for the motif. So that goes really fast. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot of elements that are copy pasted with Senior Manager, but just rotated and then added different details on top of it.
That's interesting to hear. Yeah, I'm noticing how copy and paste these towers are. But you wouldn't tell. You wouldn't tell it unless it was pointed out. I think you completely get away with it, and I think everyone else would agree with that as well. It's interesting to think how the idea of every building's got to have a purpose, and that's which is a really good way of thinking about things. But it's a very new way of thinking about things as well, because if you look at the old Loopy Landscape Parks, you go back to this era, it is just building spam, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, that was the classic trademark of the era, right? You had maybe a few signs here and there to indicate a name or of a cafe or something, but more or less, it's just random assortment of buildings and landscapes that just has a very pleasant atmosphere. And I think that's what I try to do here. And I think GeForce made a comment too, that he hopes that this will help spur some productivity in future work for me. And I think he is spot on that I would like to explore this style more in different variations because it was just such an easy build. And there was very little struggle compared to any of my past parks where it was a burnout kind of scenario, you know?
Yeah.
And that's not healthy.
No, I think that the competition is fantastic for not just that, but for what you were describing earlier as well, looking back to the past, seeing how people could make parks that we enjoyed back in the day in ways that were so simple in comparison. And it's true that as time goes on, we aspire to greater and greater things. We stand on the shoulders of giants. But it's also true that those parks do look good. So, looking back to the past, leaning more on our composition muscles and less so on our over detailing muscles will let us finish things more quickly, because if we had stuff like this in it, this by no means looks old, it looks contemporary. If we can, if 1/5 of a spotlight is filled with stuff like this and the rest is more, modern in terms of its philosophy, in terms of its like detailing and stuff, and you can blend them through, suddenly your spotlight level parks are going to get completed a lot more quickly, just because you've got those fundamentals down, the composition is down. And
yeah. I completely agree, and I think the park maker that always comes to mind is Alex, because Ancient Worlds, it was a revelation for me, and it was so simple in a lot of the detailing, but it was also innovative in how he used NCSO. But the main thing is he had the 100% perfect foundations in terms of composition, layouts, interaction, just the basic tenets of good park making. And then he put in some innovative NCSO ideas and work and created this gorgeous park that's my top 3 parks ever created.
I agree.
And
Alex is one of my favorite builders ever. He makes everything seem so easy. I'm really glad that we have Alex as a part of the community just to remind us how to do things every now and then. Because like you say, Ancient Worlds, it's annoying how easy he makes it look, and I think that comes down to the exact things that you were describing. Like, it's just so the foundations are just so strong that he could have basically put anything on top of there and it would have worked.
Right, and a lot of that comes from the classic parks.
Yeah,
right. The reason why they're so beloved, because the foundations are there.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm enjoying this competition so much. So I'm glad that you sort of brought that up as well and gave me the opportunity to sort of voice that idea. Is there anything else that you want to say about this before we move on?
No, but thanks for doing this full review here, and I'm glad I was able to catch you.
No, I'm glad that you were able to come, because you were in earlier and then we thought you were gone. So I started insulting you and then you showed up again. So I'm glad that worked.
I'm in Denver right now on vacation with my partner's family.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the cave for a second. Extreme really needs to make himself feel useful, so he built this gorgeous cave with a thing in. What was there a particular park that you were taking inspiration from with this element?
We referenced Coco. He made one of the Tolokan. It was one of his screenshots, and we used that in Mikland back in the other H2H. And we were thinking, okay, we need a flat ride here somewhere. And this Extreme pulled this out super fast. And it looks wonderful as a hidden little surprise in the back.
I think it really needed that as well, just as that last bit of cherry on top to sort of make it. Because this was just a flat blank wall before. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that really does sort of tie the bow on top. Because it would have been fantastic without it, but its inclusion it really does do something.
And that is one problem with these tall landscapes. When you have those kind of elevations, you do really limit the views you have in isometric form. So this park has 2 really well considered views and 2 less considered views because of the backside of these mountains, right? Yeah. So Extreme adding this underneath with the land blocks carved out adds that visual interest back in, where otherwise it would just be a blank wall.
Yeah, fantastic ideas from the team as well, contributing in. Mm-hmm. This is
Extreme supports though. Let's give some praise for his supports. Those are absolutely makes the coaster pop in a way that it didn't look before they were in place. The chunky supports in the bright orange is chef's kiss. Extreme did really, really great work there.
We cannot forget that, because they were a very late addition. I was a bit worried. I was like, oh god. And there's something that I'm so bad at, and I knew I couldn't help with. So, oh sorry, my alarms are going off. Stop. Shut up.
I'm terrible at it too.
Yeah. So, big thank yous to Extreme on that. I love these supports. I love. I was mentioning it on the Otter Park. ABC, thank you so much for coming and talking to us about this. I'm really glad that you managed to not only get home safe, but have the opportunity to talk with us about it.
Yeah.
Thank you for the stimulating points as well. And I'm always up for some complimenting of Alex at every opportunity. So is there anything you want to say before I put you in prison?
No, thank you so much. I'm glad everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too, man. Take care. Let's put you in.
All right.
Get the hell out of my server at once. It was a really fantastic experience to build on this with AVC. I wish I could have done more, but yeah, he's a great member of the team. Looking forward to doing more stuff with all of my teammates. Let's shuffle on to the next point before we fall too much in love with this park. We didn't even really look at this area. This area is just brilliant as well. So I'll leave it on that whilst I load the next one, which is... oh, it's this one. Oh, which one should we open first? Do we have any of these builders? Do we have anybody? Okay, what do we have here? We've got a Recurious. Oh, we do. When we open up the next one, would you be up for talking, Recurious? Just drop a message in the chat if you would be up for that, and I'll unmute you when the time comes. We're going to start with Rift Valley to begin with. And it is a little bit necessary that I turn the music up just for a moment, despite the fact I know it's going to be distracting. This is just such a fantastic park. I'll say about the matches that I wasn't a part of this round were just too challenging to choose between. They're both so fantastic. Bye Extreme, everybody say bye Extreme. Let's give them a love heart. Thanks for coming, Extreme. This is so of its time. I'm really glad that we got this, and in particular from these builders as well. It was built 40% by Levis, 35% from Camcorder 22, and then 25% went to Coaster Creator 9. Is Coaster Creator here? Have we really got none of these guys? That's disappointing. I want to hear about more of this stuff. I'll have to do another stream where we can speak to the people who we didn't get to speak to. And we're going to see here some of the Levisness. This this like different drop thing, and this little area, like mosh pit. Like I was saying, this is so of its time. I'm really glad that we got something like this. This to me just screams camcorder. Yeah, this is what I think when I think camcorder, to be honest. All of these guitar sculptures, just brilliant. It's very overwhelming. That's very much sort of like the like point of it. It's meant to be an onslaught. I'm going to turn the music down again so I can think. It's meant to be an assault on the senses. It's meant to be like explorable for a long time. You're meant to unpack a park like this. And now it's even easier to do so with stuff like the cutaway tool. This Pick of Destiny sculpture is just also brilliant as well. I'll say that I'm never a huge fan of the coasters in parks like this because they are a bit more... how to put it? What do I mean? They're always a bit more... they're never bad. These are all like really cool rides. But they're much more... especially when we get rid of the scenery, we see that they're really confidently designed. And all of the gestures are just fantastic. I think it's just just an element of I find it just quite overwhelming. I think it's really as simple as that. But that's kind of the point as well. So although it's 100% the case that I find them overwhelming, it is the point. So in a sense, they've succeeded in what they're after. I've just spotted something really cute over here. Let's zoom in on it. Life raft. And who's that stood on it? Somebody saying, help me. Yeah, that's just brilliant. I don't know whether this has been put in. Let's see what operating mode it is. I'm gonna... Oh, it doesn't... Oh my goodness. Oh, the track type's on Crooked House, but the operating mode is beginner mode. I knew that it was going to be one of the top spin ones because that's been it's been a trick for a very long time, putting a very novel concept there. Oh my god, 0%. We've got an undecorated bit of green grass here. Quick, before anybody sees, I'm going to colour it to this texture. Now, why don't I have my void textures? That's interesting. Never mind, because I had them earlier. Oh, the objects that you have to select. Very interesting. Thank you, Space K. Stuff like this as well. We can... how do you do it? Station type. No entrance. Maybe Levis was playing in the SV7 format. Maybe he was playing in... I forget what it's called now. You guys know what I mean. You guys know I'm just playing. All of the ride designs are just fantastic and novel, and like this guitar, like high note thing. There's really not a lot of criticism that I have for a park like this. It's so well executed as well. It's a very sort of 2022 take on a very classic concept, and it works just so well. So huge compliments to these guys. The Piss River was an interesting choice, but honestly, everything else, so well done, guys. I just feel so lucky to. Oh, it's acid. Okay, it's piss, Ethan. It's piss. I feel so lucky that we can still get parks like this. I'm sure the community is just as thankful as I am. So fantastic work to Levis, Camcorder, and Coaster Creator 9. Thank you so much. Let's load up the last park we're going to be looking at today. 1K Jungle Theme. Now, Recurious, do you have anything that you want to share with the class? I've unmuted you. You just speak up at any point. I'll also tag you in this in case you've wandered off or something. Right. Let's have a look at this. Now this, a little bit of a background on my experience of Roller Coaster Tycoon. When I started, and to this day, one of my favourite parks was Dimensions Realms of Creation. There's loads that I love about that park. So looking through this just, whipped me back to that time in all the best ways. I love a good, fresh idea like this stuff here. Like, is this truly... So is this in reverse incline? This isn't boat hire mode, okay. Oh, so is this actually using these track types? So is this actually using that element? And it works because the reverser train can go backwards? Oh, we're curious. Hopefully you can reveal the trick to that. No problem, mate. Thank you for being here and being part of the stream anyway. Mucho appreciated. If you've got anything that you want to type about it as well, I can read it out for the benefit of those who are listening. But you don't have to at all. That's completely up to you. All this stuff's really cool. What are these called? Summit Quest. The fact, something that we have to do as well is how do I put it? I forget the term. It's very late for me at the moment. It's only 8:10 in the evening, but I always get up at about 4:30 in the morning. So I'm using all of my brain power to try and remember the. It's more of a film term. I keep thinking intertextual reference, but that's not correct. Basically, is it extra textual stuff? So the name of the park is where the journey begins with this experience, because it's 1K jungle theme, and the park's a 1K jungle theme, but also, so it's already a great joke, but also it's misspelled, which is, it's just such a fucking fantastic meme. So great job calling it that. It really stuck the landing for me. And yeah, we've got the lizards, which are necessary, obviously, for an iguana, necessary for a Kumba park. Oh, sorry, forgive me for yawning. Like I say, very tired boy. Now, the roller coaster for me, a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, it's good" and all that. So I'm glad that someone is, because I'm not so much a fan of it. Not to say that it's bad. I don't think it's bad, but I feel like it's just not. Like we could have done something braver. Like this Sherpa expedition thing is just so cool. But we just went for quite a generic, quite ordinary invert. As Rikuya says, it's mostly Kumba's brainchild, this park. He went hard on this. I only helped him out with some hacking and stuff. Which is, that's the sort of stuff that parks don't get finished if it doesn't happen. So don't talk yourself down too much, Rikuya. Yeah, man, it is obviously overwhelmingly a Kumba park as well, so... Yeah, well, thank you for giving us that little bit of insight, even if you didn't. I think your contribution was only 1% anyway, so you probably worked harder writing that out than you did trying to contribute to a Kumba park. He's a machine. He's a crazy guy. Just full of ideas. And we've got the classic Kumba arena thing. I wish that there was more parks like this. It may be that it's only, the builders like Kumba who can build like this, but I really want to. I think maybe one of my goals moving forwards will be to make a Realms of Creation kind of park where we're taking these ideas like this and we're bringing them to the surface, and we have this. It doesn't have to be an unrealistic experience by any means, but a bit more conceptually brave, a bit more. Towing the line of what is possible, that sort of semi-realism thing. Yeah, this mosaic is fantastic. And yeah, Kumba, what a brilliant park. Like I say, I couldn't decide between them. I couldn't decide between any of the parks this round because they were just all so good. So I null voted on all of them because I wanted to be nosy about who was voting and where they were voting. But yeah, I'm just going to see what Recurious. Most of the hacks are intentionally shitty on this park. I didn't notice, so maybe you should have done a better job at making them shitty. Can you tell us any shitty hacks? Can you... I don't know what that means. I don't know what the chairlift glitch is. Oh, it like jumps. Yeah, that adds to it. Yeah, sometimes cars teleport, yeah. Honestly, I didn't notice because there's so much going on. But I'm glad that you're dedicated to even making the hacks shitty. Oh, yeah, I really, it's very nostalgic for me, this one. Well, both of these parks were a good sort of spiritual symmetry between these two parks. I think that what had been going on, I don't know what's going on the admin side. If we've got any admins still left, I don't know whether Liam's still here. No. But the, or maybe Walto can answer, to be honest, or any of the other captains if there's any knocking about. I think that the parks were sort of drawn out of a hat, and that was who was going up against who. And it was also, if you weren't matched up with a park, you were booted into the next round. But I think it's extremely... If it's an accident, it's a fantastic accident and a really nice coincidence that two parks that are so... Sorry, excuse me. Two parks that are so specific to particular builders, like that for that other one, like Levis and Camcorder, they are. It's such a Levis and Camcorder park, and this one is such a Cumber park, obviously. Oh God, forgive me, please, people of New Element. I don't know why I've got the burps. Yeah, just brilliant stuff from both parks, and this is very Cumber as well. These tub tables, like in Musket, Loopy Landscapes. But that kind of thing was in Dimensions Realms of Creation as well. Don't make me go back and open it, guys. Here's actually a comment and a call out. Oh, the poker tournament. Yeah, there's poker in Dimensions as well, and there's one in Virginia Key or whatever it's called, which is basically a big casino again. This is a call out. Do you remember the trip reports from back in the day? Where you know how we do with theme parks, we go, oh, I went to Carowinds today. Here's my experience. Here's what rides I went on. People would do it with New Element parks, and they'd say, oh, me and a bunch of other New Element members went to Dimension Realms of Creation. I remember there was one specifically for Dimensions Realms of Creation. Are they still around? I might have to message the admins on this, because I know that a bunch of write-ups are just lost. It's a lot of hard work that I did. I'll have to go on the Wayback Machine. That's a great thought. Current me, future me is going to have to look into that. But yeah, there was a fantastic one for Dimensions Realms Creation. We really need to start doing that stuff again. That was just really funny, but it takes a lot of effort, and if it's a very high effort shit post, which is time that I don't blame anybody for using elsewhere. Oh, brilliant stuff. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this journey of looking through rounds 1 to 3